This is the WHTC Morning News with Gary Stevens and Peg McNichol on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
Welcome back to the WHTC Morning News for this Friday, August 31st. I should say Tuesday because I'm thinking of the weekend, unfortunately. But there's plenty of things to discuss and to go over on this Tuesday, August 31st edition of the WHTC Morning News. And Tuesday mornings at this time, we have a chance to chat with one of the two men who represent the Lake Shore in the U.S. House. He is Fred Upton, joining us via the Zoom connection from his base of operations in St. Joe. Fred, good morning. Hope all is well with you and the family.
Well, it is. Good morning. It's the Chamber of Commerce Day here in Southwest Michigan. So good for everybody, I hope.
Yeah, let's hope it will be good for everybody. In just hours, President Joe Biden will officially mark the end of America's longest war. That's what our wire service is calling it. Set to address the nation on the very deadline to withdraw troops from Afghanistan, which happened yesterday after more than 120,000 people were evacuated in the last couple of months. Your thoughts about the end of a 20-year mission to try to fight the war on terror on the war on terror's home front?
Well, of course, we end on a very, very sour note. Billions of dollars of equipment left, but more importantly, a number of Americans that are still there, probably in the hundreds, and don't know precisely what their status is. I know the Secretary of State said yesterday that they're still anxious to get those folks out when and if they want to go, if they're able. But I know just in my office alone, we had more than 100 different families of Afghan helpers, translators, etc., with our troops that were there over the last 20 years. More than 100 families. We processed all of them. We got their names, their, as much paperwork as we could get to the State Department. We had very little success in getting folks out. Literally, I think maybe just a handful. A lot of these came late, just in the last couple days, as people got very frantic. And of course, we heard about mass executions, a number of different things that were happening there. So I'm sure that the panic elevated quite a bit more, rightfully so. But what a mess to try and get. I credit our armed services folks, men and women. It was so tragic, of course, to see what happened in the last few days with the 13 that were killed. Something that was absolutely predicted in our classified briefing that we had after I talked to you last week. I was in Washington. We had votes Monday and Tuesday. I went from our interview to a classified briefing. They told us it was going to happen. And tragically, particularly as we learn the stories of those men and women, just breaks your heart. It really does. So it wasn't their fault. It was the orders that they were given. They did their very best to carry them out for sure. And there'll be a lot of questions. I'm sure a lot of hearings. Anxious to see what the president says or hear what the president says later on today. But what a mess.
Now, the thing is, though, hearings can be one thing, taking a look back on what could have been or should have been done. But moving forward, what does this entire situation mean, not only for us in America, but also for America's standing in the world? Some might say, hey, America might say this and do this, but we saw in Afghanistan, what they did and what happened there. They might be looking askance, other nations might be looking askance as to just how sincere U.S. Foreign policy is.
Well, you're right on. Those are great questions and very troubling, probably with the answers that come forth for sure. And the other thing is we looked long range. I went to Afghanistan. I was there not for very long, but, I went up to Jalalabad. I was in Kabul. And we have really lost our ability. When we shut down the Bagram Air Force Base, that was the largest base that we had in the Middle East. So now where do we operate our drones from? Where do we get our intelligence? The Taliban is not our friend. This new ISIS group is not our friend at all. They're even worse than the Taliban from everything that I understand. Where are we going to get our information? Where are we going to fly our drones from? Where where are we going to be able to get our intelligence capability to try and prevent something from happening? And we just abandon it all without any conditions being met by the Taliban. Literally turned everything over. I saw pictures even this morning of the C-130. That's a 4-engine prop plane that's been the workhorse of our military for decades. Aircraft components that are left there, weapons, Humvees, all of that, literally billions of dollars of equipment left in the hands of the Taliban. And we can only guess their return to Sharia law and all the other things that are just so alarming to so many people around the world.
Yeah, not only for Americans, but also for those who are left behind in Afghanistan, not just those who are helping the Americans, but just the general human rights situation. Wouldn't be surprised if we see United Nations human rights violations being reported in Afghanistan in the next few months, a byproduct of what is going on. Fred, I do need to touch upon what you and other members of Congress will be facing after the Labor Day break. You got to get a budget in time for the end of September, and we got a couple of packages, one on infrastructure, the other on a wish list that are basically on a collision course.
Well, they are. I had a conference call with my committee staff yesterday. We got basically two different vehicles. We know that we need infrastructure spending. Of course, you and I we've talked about this probably weekly since April as a member of the Problem Solvers Caucus. We narrowed it down, the focus, what's traditional infrastructure, how are we going to pay for it, pretty responsible package. Passed 69-30 before the Senate adjourned a little bit earlier this month. That's sitting on, that's ready for us to deal with. Frankly, it was ready for us before when we were in session last week to deal with, but Speaker Pelosi didn't want it because she wants a much larger package, 3 times as much, $3.5 trillion. The energy section of it looks to be about $400 billion. I mean, I'm a Reagan guy, right? I worked for President Reagan a lot of years ago. $400 billion. Oh my goodness. And how are we going to pay for it? Well, of course, they undo the tax credits or the tax cuts that the Trump administration was able to get through back in 2017. I spoke to a Chamber of Commerce group yesterday in St. Joe County and went to toured a number of different businesses. I mean, as we look for our economy to recover, the last thing we want to do is raise the taxes on farms and businesses and everybody else. And of course, that's exactly where this bill that the Pelosi wants is likely to go. And we have to deal with all of that. We've got the Jewish holidays. We have Labor Day coming up. We're going to have a very busy September. We don't come back until the 20th. So it's Pelosi's goal to try and get that $3.5 trillion package up on the floor the first week that we're back. In fact, our committee is going to be working on a Zoom. These are always sort of crazy things. It's a Hollywood Squares with 54 members of Congress offering amendments. It's going to take probably a couple days to get through. We're going to be responsible for looking at, I don't know, our committee, maybe $900 billion, and we're doing it on Zoom. I mean, you and I have a pretty good dialogue here together, have a pretty good understanding. It's a lot harder with 54 people, but literally $900 billion. Holy cow. Anyway, Speaker wants to get that done the first week that we're back. It's her intention to get our second package done. Who knows what's going to happen with the Senate? We're at the end of the fiscal year. The Senate hasn't done a single one of the appropriation bills. So it's going to be hold on to your horses when we come back in September. That's for sure. A lot of things are going to be happening.
He is Congressman Fred Upton, joins us Tuesday mornings, talk about things going on in Washington. Fred, as always, thank you very much for your time. Wish you and your family a happy and safe Labor Day holiday weekend. And if all goes well, let's talk next Tuesday because it'll be our last chance to chat before the 11th.
Yes, just because my daughter's going to be here. So do it in 2 weeks.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much, Fred Upton on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.